Welcome everyone to the Big Finish News. Today's top news story, the Sirens of Time is getting revisited. As announced at Big Finish Day 2024, the original Big Finish audio drama starring Peter Davison, Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy, written and directed by Nicholas Briggs, is getting a remaster and a re-edit using the original recording tapes to create this sort of director's cut of the story. Originally, the first 3 episodes focused on one Doctor each before they all came together for the final episode. Now this new version intercuts between the two for what is said to be a more narratively satisfying experience. It is available in 4 different versions. You've got your bronze version, which is just your download, your silver version, limited to 1,000 copies on CD, gold, which is CD plus limited edition cassette tape, limited to only 150 copies, and finally platinum, which is already sold out. It was limited to just 100 copies, which featured the CD, the cassette, and some art cards as well, or prints of photos from the recording sessions, I should say. So, yeah, this is rather exciting.
From those 3 Doctors to the next Doctor to join the Big Finish, it was the 4th Doctor, Tom Baker, and we've got the last box set details for Series 13, Dominant Species, containing 2 stories, The Face in the Storm and The Dominant Species by John Dorney, featuring the 4th Doctor battling the Dominators and the Quark. So this is the end of Harry and Naomi's journey with the 4th Doctor. We know where they're heading to go next, but how do we know how they get there? Dominant Species throws danger and secrets from the past at the 2 companions as destiny awaits them on the planet Teleria.
Speaking of the 4th Doctor, one of his most iconic TV stories, The Ark in Space, is getting a prequel in The Death and Life of River Song, Last Words, the first box set in this new series for River Song, as she is brought back to life in a cloned body. Her consciousness from the library is uploaded into it, and she is facing the last days of planet Earth before the solar flares, where she will be encountering 2 characters from that TV story, with new actors Robert Whitelock as Lazar and Christine Kavanagh as Vira. Of course, these were originally played on television by Kenton Moore and Wendy Williams. This is a 4-disc box set, all one long story by Robert Valentine. The episodes are Book 1, Apocalypse, Book 2, Fate and Fatality, Book 3, The Black Hours, and Book 4, Book of the Dead. David Richardson said Robert Valentine has done something remarkable with this 4-hour audio drama, which tells the story of the last days of planet Earth before it is destroyed by solar flares. A story told from the perspective of a woman temporarily brought back from the dead. It's heartbreaking, exciting, and doom-laden, perhaps, when you least expect it, uplifting and inspiring. Apparently, this was one of Alex Kingston's favourite scripts from Big Finish, so high hopes for this one.
The month before River Song, we have a July Tortured release, Art Decadence, which has a surprising monster from the 5th Doctor era. The Mara makes its 2nd audio debut after Cradle and the Snake back in 2009, so a long overdue return for this monster. And this Torchwood story is set in the 1920s as Sir Reggie works for Torchwood, saving the world from alien invasions. Really, he relies on the service of his loyal butler. While he paints the town red, but there is a new sensation in high society. What is the secret of the Serpentine Club?
Also in July, even more Torchwood is coming in the form of Torchwood Soho Ascension, the latest in the Soho series, which sees 6 half-hour episodes, once again all written by James Goss, telling the story of 1950s England discovering that heaven is real. What effect would that have on people? Norton Folgate, Sergeant Andy Davidson, Gideon Lyme and Lisbeth Hayhoe all investigate once again in this exciting box set, which features a reversible cover. So you have your demonic hell side And then if you flip it round, you get your heavenly side with Norton Folgate gaining his wings and his harp there. How cool is that?
Continuing the Sixth Doctor's 40th celebrations, we have Trials of a Time Lord out in August, which is a 6-part story told over 3 discs. The first 2 episodes scripted by Rochelle Patel, third and fourth by Catherine Armitage, and the final 2 by Stuart Pringle. Producer Jonathan S. Powell said, "We're bringing back Androgams. These alien cannibals were first introduced in the 2 Doctors by the late great Robert Home, turn of Terry Malloy and David Bank. So this is going to be an absolutely 1980s feast." And that cover alone is giving very much the 80s vibe with the return of the time scoop from the 5 Doctors.
Speaking of covers, we got a reveal for Operation Werewolf, the second Doctor Lost story featuring Jamie and Zoe as they face the Nazis in this historical with a twist. It is sci-fi, but no aliens or time travelers to be seen here, which creates a rather unique story, perhaps only comparable to Enemy of the World, in that features no time travelers or aliens, but is nevertheless a sci-fi threat in origin through Salamander. Operation Werewolf was submitted to the BBC in 1967 by Douglas Camfield, an incredibly prolific Doctor Who director, and Robert Kitts, and has now been adapted by Jonathan Morris. It is a chunky 6-parter, which we love to see, and it also features 6 episodes with their own individual titles, not usual for a second Doctor story. These titles are The Secret Army, The Chateau of Death, Lair of the Werewolf, Friend or Foe, The Village of Lies, and Crossfire. And these will also all come with their own bespoke little titles beforehand, like you sometimes got with those 1960s, early 70s stories, where this will feature the Morse code tapping out as the titles are read aloud.
The 8th Doctor enters the Time War again, starting a whole new chapter in the Time War saga for the 8th Doctor with Uncharted Reflections, and that cover is definitely intriguing as we've got some familiar faces for the 8th Doctor with Hattie Monaghan and Conrad Westmus on there. Obviously, we don't know if they're playing their original characters of Cariz and Helen. We'll just have to wait and see. But the 4 stories in this box set are Nowhere Never by Catherine Armitage, The Road Untravelled by Tim Foley, Cascade by James Moran, and Borrowed or Rob by Tim Foley. David Richardson said, "A new start in the Time War with our now established team of the 8th Doctor, Cass and Alex. I loved the chemistry between this trio in the previous box set, Cass. So it was inevitable we should get them back together and send them off in a new direction. The journey is just beginning and it's crashing towards some unexpected turns. So this box set is out in October."
Another fresh start within the Time War comes in the form of The War Doctor Rises, where Jonathan Carley is once again taking on the role of the young War Doctor, this time going up against Morbius the Mighty in a 3-hour-long story written by Tim Foley, which will serve as a sequel to Dark Gallifrey Morbius. The War Doctor is recuperating from a poisoning and pursued by Morbius, the dictator of ancient Gallifrey. Writer Tim Foley said, "With Dark Gallifrey, I really got my teeth into Morbius, the way he approached everything, that ego of his that was bubbling out over the script. There was just so much of him that I wanted to write another script to put more of him in. So I asked, please let me write for Morbius again, because Dark Gallifrey Morbius was inspired by Frankenstein. It felt like a natural fit to put Morbius in another epic story. A large part of Morbius the Mighty is inspired by the Wrath of Khan, which itself has its genesis in Moby Dick. Both are fabulous revenge stories and basically boil down to a one-on-one. I thought about what Morbius was angry at the War Doctor about, what was driving him, and that's where the drama stems from. Morbius the Mighty will be released in August.
From Morbius Dark Gallifrey, we have the next trilogy announced, which is the War Master, featuring a Doctor we didn't expect. We have the return of the Unbound Doctor for 1, final time. David Warner. We thought we had seen the last of him in Time Lord Immemorial, but we have him back for one last time in July, where we see a shopping list of characters appear with Bernie Summerfield, the Unbound Doctor, the main Dark Gallifrey person, I guess, the War Master, and we have James Masters, Captain John in this trilogy as well. So quite an exciting shopping list and a unique archaeology team. Scott Hancock said, David Richardson asked me to do Dark Gallifrey box set with the War Master, and there were certain other characters he wanted in the mix. So I turned to James, a Terrance Dick style 5 Doctor shopping list, and asked, can we work up a story featuring the War Master, Captain John Hart, Bernie Summerfield, and David Warner's Doctor, and even a little cameo from the young War Doctor. Very quickly, he came up with a storyline to accommodate everyone that made sense and celebrated those combinations of characters. Writer James Goss added, only Big Finish would be able to go, we'll get the man from Buffy and that national treasure, and we'll have them acting together. They're both great actors from very different worlds. So Dark Gallifrey is spanning from July, August, and September, this War Master trilogy, priced individually at $10.99 or $8.99 on download. So that is Dark Gallifrey. Very exciting to see the return of David Warner for one final outing.
So which of these are you most looking forward to then, Ben?
I think there's quite a lot of exciting stuff within it, like Operation Werewolf.
Definitely.
But I think it's got to be Dark Gallifrey, because it was just such a curveball of just seeing David Warner on a cover again.
I think that being released early in the morning as well, that news, which is not something Big Finish does all that often, made it almost feel like I'd woken up in a parallel dimension or something. It was just so unexpected and very much excitingly so to see David Warner back on a cover. And yeah, it's bittersweet knowing it's the final time, but it's more than we were expecting. Like,
yeah, we thought we said goodbye back in October, wasn't it? No, September.
Yeah, October. Yeah, September. No, October. Time.
Yeah, it was October. Yeah. They did a double drop. Yeah.
So it's nice to have that one final outing, and I think having it be with Benny as well does feel right. Yeah. Her absence was felt in Time Lord Immemorial. It's a shame that despite this being Dark Gallifrey the War Master, we're not going to hear his Doctor go up against Derek Jacobi. Because, I mean, those two heavy hitters of English film acting would have been incredible to hear. But just knowing that we've got more of both of them, really, I mean, it's wonderful to have. I mean, like you say, so much exciting stuff. For me, Operation Werewolf is another highlight. Like, I love my World War II stories. I love my Second Doctor stories. This is one that I've seen floating around as a possibility for a long while.
And Jonathan Morris is the one who's been doing this since the Lost Story started, so this feels like a passion project for him.
Yeah, he's like been giving them a poke every once in a while, saying, so you're doing Operation Werewolf yet? And now it's finally his time to shine with it. And it feels like, it's the best time to do it because we have Michael Troughton now in the role. Big Finish is much more accepting of recasts now, and so we can have this in its full cast glory. Not that there's anything wrong with the approach they had early on in the Lost Stories with, the more narration heavy style of first, second, and third Doctor stories, but there's something right about having it stand alongside the others in its full cast glory. Yeah,
I mean, I think Sirens of Time's an interesting one. That's got a bit of discourse online, but I think it makes sense. We've bought Doctor Who stories multiple times. Why can't we do that with Big Finish? And I think this is definitely a bit more bang for your buck because we're getting a sort of a reimagining, a first Big Finish story with the techniques of 2024 Big Finish and trying to make sense of that narrative, where the cliffhangers don't get resolved. So it'll be interesting to see if that does happen in the final extended cut, really. So yeah, it's very exciting. Yeah, I'm intrigued by that. It's quite interesting that we've got two anniversary releases in November. We've got Coda and this. I guess
Yeah.
July is already quite a packed month, so they can't quite get it out for the actual 25th anniversary.
Hmm. So instead they've gone for the Doctor Who anniversary, which, makes sense, especially for a multi-Doctor story to be out around that time of year as well. It does feel somewhat right. But yeah, I mean, it's, I suppose, unusual but unsurprising that there's a bit of discourse around it. But
Mm.
like you say, so many classic stories have had special editions and such. I mean, how many releases has Spearhead from Space had
Or
at this
Sharda,
point?
you know?
Yeah, Sharda as well. That's another big one. So, but this story, it is, like you say, it's what we get as a special feature a lot of the time on these new Blu-ray collections and such.
Mm.
Like we had with Terror of the Vervoids, how that was
Yeah.
re-edited to remove the trial scenes. This is something similar to that, and I think it's very much
And
showing off how far Big Finish has come in the last 25
and
years.
it's got behind the scenes, which the original Big Finish CDs didn't really have until quite late on in the monthly range.
Yeah.
So that's another incentive to go for it, really, and it's a little time capsule of reminiscing of it. Obviously, we've had the Big Finish story documentaries in Light at the End, the worlds of Doctor Who, but it'll be great just to solely focus on that original production and give it the love it deserves, because it's spawned all these other audios that we're talking about in this news section.
And if you think it's a cash grab, don't buy it.
It's exactly,
vote
vote with your wallet. If that's not for you, that's fine. But don't yuck on people's yums who are excited for this.
Yeah, and I think certainly people are excited because the
sold out.
Platinum edition has sold out. So
Yeah.
at least 100 people
Are excited for
are
it.
looking forward to this and have voted with their wallets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, River Song, I do love a bit of River. And so it's wonderful to see them take on the approach that worked so well with Friend of the Family, of having it be one long story, one writer's vision, which is something which we're seeing more and more from Big Finish these days. You look, same with War Master, that all written by James Goss, and The War Doctor, Morbius the Mighty being one 3-hour epic by Tim Foley. I think it's nice to see this approach being taken by Big Finish on the whole, because it's something that we've been really enjoying when they have done it, this more long form storytelling.
Yes.
And so it's nice to see that it's definitely not just us enjoying that. Something about it is working. It seems David Richardson in particular is really fond of it and pushing for it more. And so, yeah, I'm just glad to be getting more of that. And
Yeah.
Fourth
great
Doctor,
stuff.
going up against the Dominators and the Quarks, it's something oddly exciting. I can't explain why. I think some people will laugh at that combination, think, oh, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel of, enemies that the Doctor can face at this point. But
that's when they work
I don't
best, because it reimagines them, and it gives you a whole new appreciation for those monsters. Just look what Big Finish have done to the Vardens. Monsters you probably thought, God, that's just a bit of tinfoil, but have got such a reputation now on audio. So why not do the same with the Quarks and the Dominators?
Yeah, exactly. And that cover art, brilliant stuff by Sean Longmore. I mean, all these covers that we've had revealed have been absolutely wonderful. But yeah, I think the Dominant Species cover of the ones we've got here may be my favourite.
So I guess that's this Big Finish news wrapped up. Let us know what bit of news you're excited about, and be interested to know what you thought. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please do like and subscribe, because it really does help the channel out, and we'll be back for more Big Finish shenanigans, whether that be reviews, streams, and of course your weekly news updates, depending how big a news there is in terms of Big Finish.
It's taken us a while to get round to this one, so it's a bit of a chunkier one. We're trying out a new format as well, you may have noticed. Please let us know what you feel about it in the comments below. But yeah, I think that's all we've got to say, isn't it?
I think that's it.
Yeah, like, subscribe, comment. We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.